Hi, I'm Brandon Stauffer. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our very first Community Matters chat. We're so excited. This is our very first one. Myself and our board president, Dan Tate, who's going to be joining us soon, I hope, came up with this idea because we want to talk about things that matter in our community: theater, the arts, buildings. We want to talk about politics. We want to talk about everything on this chat. And so we came up with this idea to do a weekly chat called Community Matters. And you can join the conversation in the comments if you'd like, or you can just chime in later. It's up to you, but we're super excited because our very first guest is ready to join. And she's one of my dear friends and I love her so much. Why are you looking at me? I have a live audience in my office, so it's really weird. But here is the amazing, the talented Bettina Smith Edmondson. Hello. Oh, I mean, now,
okay.
How
Hi,
are you?
good evening, everyone. Happy to be here.
It's such a great time. I'm so glad you could join us. Before we start, Bettina, you will agree that I have to be very clear that OPA is a nonprofit, and Bettina is running for city council, and we as a nonprofit cannot endorse any candidates. In fact, we invited all candidates for city council to join us in a chat, and Bettina was kind enough to be one of the people who responded. So we're really excited about that, to get to know more about you, but this does not show an endorsement for Bettina. Just want to be really clear about that.
Correct.
So Bettina, tell us about you. Let's just get to know a little bit about you and where you're from and all the good things.
Okay. So the quick and dirty is I was actually born and raised here in Layton, Utah, and my parents have lived here. They moved here from Mississippi to go to graduate school, actually at Utah State in Logan, and they ended up staying, having kids, having a whole family, and so we are here. Born and raised here. I went to Adams Elementary, North Layton Junior High School, and Northridge High School, which I know is different because a lot of people have gone to Layton High, which is great, but I'm a Knight, so I'm going to have to rep the Inn.
Absolutely. I totally get it. We love our Northridge friends. It's what I think is so interesting here in Layton. You could go to so many different schools, and some of them aren't even in Layton. Like some of the kids go to school in Davis or Clearfield, and that's also great. We love all of the schools here.
That's right. School is important.
You mentioned your family. So you're married. How many children do you have?
So I have two toddlers, a 3-year-old and a 4.5-year-old. I do also have some stepchildren who don't live with me, but my stepdaughter was here last week, and so we had a blast with her, and she's 16, and, we just have a lovely mashed up family, and everybody is all good and all together, and so my husband and I, we raise our two toddlers here in West Layton, and we just enjoy being here.
I got to tell you, one of my favorite things about you is that you say Layton.
Yes.
You add the T.
Yes.
And I strive to be more like you every time we talk. I'm always like, sometimes I get lazy and I say Layton instead of Layton.
That's a practiced thing. Literally. I practiced that as a teenager. Because I heard about, the accent that we have in Utah, right? That we all have is what they said.
Yeah.
The Layton. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I practiced saying Layton.
Well, so, I grew up in Tooele, so the T was not hard. It was the rest of it that was hard.
Yes.
Yeah. So Bettina is running for city council. You are one of the 4 candidates remaining. I'm dying to know why now? Why did you decide this was the moment for you to get involved in the political system?
Right. So honestly, I wasn't thinking about the political system. I wasn't thinking about it being political. I wasn't thinking about it being politics or anything. My kids were signed up for swimming, just at the city website. Big plug for swim classes. They love them. They're very affordable. So I was just checking my schedules, making sure things were good, and clicked on the municipal elections. This was a Friday. Monday was the deadline. There were 2 seats open. There was 1 candidate who had filed for candidacy. And I thought, really? This is really what happened? I was in awe. I thought there was a problem. I thought, surely there's a mistake. There's only 1 candidate running and there are 2 seats. This is like a no-brainer. So I talked it over with my husband, my family, some friends over the weekend. And I was like, you know what, I should do this because I've lived here my whole life. I like Layton. I understand, how to do things. I've worked in state government. I understand, enough about politics to an extent, but I wasn't even thinking about it as politics. I was thinking about it as serving my city, and there being an opportunity. And so I told my husband on Monday, I said, hey, I'm going to go down and file this application for candidacy. And he said, okay, go for it. Put the kids down for a nap, didn't have any more meetings, went and filed and stepped in the office and realized that, oh, this is about to be like a real situation. Had a huge packet. There was a filing fee and all of these things that I hadn't really thought through. So I hadn't planned it out. I'll put it that way. I know a lot of people plan, and there is a blessing in planning. I will put it that way. But there's also a certain energy that jolts you. For me, I feel it was a divine thing, a divine calling, a divine push per se, that was like, hey, you need to do this and you can do this. And so I'm not going to lie, while I was in there, I had a moment where I had to step out and do something. And I thought, I could just get back in my car and go home and forget this whole thing and go back to work and be good. But again, I felt like I was pushed. So I went forward and I just said, I've done a lot less for $25 in my life. Let's do it. And that's where we are. I freaked out, a couple of times along the way. But step by step, things started lining up. People I know, friends I have, I know a lot of people. I have a huge family. My mom comes from a family of 14 children. So I have family members all over the country, and I know a lot of people, and they were all very encouraging, very supportive. And ever since I made that declaration, things have been very good. So I'm thankful for it.
Okay, so you've got a really supportive family, lots of supportive friends, but I want to know, who was somebody, or you don't even have to tell us who, but what did somebody say that was like, you're crazy? Was there anybody who was like, why are you doing this to yourself?
Yeah, a couple of them. I'll give you some categories. So my mom, she was like, are you sure? Are you sure this is what you need to do? Are you sure you want to do this? Because my mom is she's very methodical and analytic. And, she's an engineer by trade. So she's like, really? You want to do this right now? You sure? Your kids are young? I'm like, I know. That doesn't make sense. But I'm like, I feel like I'm being pressed to do this. And so we're going to forge through. Knocking on doors. I've had some people who are like, you're crazy. Anybody who wants to do politics is crazy. And I said, I may be a little crazy, but again, I feel like there's a reason. I feel like it's better if I keep moving forward than if I back out, and I'm not going to lie. There have been a couple of times where I was like, you know what, forget this. I don't have to do it. It's too hard. It's too much. But at the end of the day, like I said, I get myself together, pray, and I'm like, okay, we can do this. We can make it. And yeah, it can be crazy. I will say that over the past week and a half or so, I have experienced some of the craziness of what politics actually is. And it's okay. I'm going to keep pressing forward and let the people make their decision, because that's what you get to do. Your vote matters, your voice matters, and everybody should feel like they have a role to play in their local politics, their local municipal government. And that's what I'm here to show, that you can do that.
As a local business owner, I am so thankful for people like you who are willing to step up and do that, because I think it's so important. And I think that so many of us have the best of intentions and want to get involved and do those sorts of things. But it takes people like you to stand up and say, no, I'm going to stand up for what I want and what our community needs. And I think that's amazing. I think that's really something to be applauded about you and the other candidates. And that's the truth, is that anybody standing up to do that is amazing, and they should be applauded. What do you see? Let's just talk about the arts for a second, because I know you're an arts supporter, and obviously I also am an arts supporter. But what do you see as the future of Layton and the arts? Where does Layton fit into how the arts grow in our state and all of those sorts of issues?
So I think that there's a perception for some that Layton is a small town, this small feel type of place, which the feel of that is great, right? It's good that you can be in the largest city in Davis County and feel like you're in a small town, because that means that you have a community and you feel like your community is there and supports you. But the truth is, we're over 80,000, residents strong, and we're really more of a regional center. And so for me, I think it's important that the arts is at the forefront, because the arts is one, we've already talked about this numerous times, but the arts give life. They give life not only to individuals, but they give life to a space. They give life to a community. They give life to an area. And it allows people to have an opportunity to express themselves. It also serves as an outlet. It can also serve as healing for people, depending on where your experiences are, where you come from. And so what I see is, I see the arts as multiple areas. Not just what we do at OPA, for example. And I say we, I know I'm not OPA, but what you do at OPA, those arts provide a space for young people, older people, adults to express themselves, to also really find talents that they didn't know they had, right? And to build confidence and all of those things. And sure, we have them in the schools also, but it's good to have multiple venues and multiple arenas to share and to express yourself in art. There's also a need, I think, for more of the gallery art, the fine art. I met a really cool young couple about maybe a month and a half ago, John Nelson. He has no idea that I'm even talking about him right now, but at John Nelson Art on Instagram, he is a young couple, he and his wife, and he does like cartoon art. So he draws, Disney characters. He draws all kinds of characters, and he needs a space. He was going to do a pop-up shop a couple of weekends ago, but because of the weather, and also there was another larger event taking place, he didn't do that. But places like that, people like that need to have opportunities. They need to be able to be showcased. And I think Layton is large enough to be able to represent people and art in many different forms, ballet, symphonies, all types of things. We can offer those to our citizens and to our residents. And then we can also be a hub for those who are nearby, in nearby cities, to come and, patronize us. Come on, bring it. But let's be who we are. We are able to, provide art spaces. We have the capacity. We just have to make sure that we plan it out the way that it needs to be, so that we can benefit everybody and that we can represent everybody, because we have it. We can do it.
So what's a typical night out for you in Layton? What do you like to do, forgetting about just being political and the perfect answer? Before you became a candidate, what was your go-to thing to do?
Okay, so first of all, I think you're very gracious to say I have the perfect answer. I literally did not prepare for any of this tonight because I've been running crazy. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. But my typical night, because I have toddlers and my husband and I like to eat, we're foodies. Our typical night, literally before this, was driving around. If it was a Friday, we'll go to a Northridge football game. If it's football, my brother coaches girls basketball, so we go to a basketball game. Whatever is available, we'll go do that. Something that our kids are not going to be so bored with that they're going to whine, and we're not going to be able to stay to the end, right? And then we'll go eat. So my husband and I like to go out to eat. So we'll have dinner somewhere, but we ought to think about, where are our kids going to go? What are they going to eat? Are they going to waste it? Are they going to complain about it? And so sometimes we would just go where we want to go, and we'll stop and get them McDonald's on the way, because that is always an appeasement for the children. So, but yeah, that's what we would do. Before COVID, we would go to movies and things like that, but we try to be cognizant of the spaces that we're in, and make sure that we're protected and that we're protecting other people. And so we would do things kind of close knit, maybe stop by my parents' house, have a hangout with the kids, my nieces and nephew, and, those types of things. COVID really changed quite a bit for us, where, we couldn't go out as much. So I'm really thankful that now we're able to go out and do things and feel like we're safe. I'm really bummed about the show tonight being canceled, because I had tickets, and, tomorrow and Saturday kind of screwed up for me. But that was something that, I was looking forward to doing. So I'm just really glad that we have options. We do have some options, but I think we could have quite a bit more. I'll put it that way.
Okay, I'm going to bring in Dan to this conversation. So let's get him in here. Hey, Dan.
Hello. Sorry,
What's up,
I'm
Dan?
so late.
Dan is very
We're
important.
done. We're wrapping up. It's over. You missed
Get out.
Perfect, and I showed up just in time.
it.
So the other things that we want to ask, and this might be a hard question. I'm not sure because I don't even know what my answer is to this. But what does community matters mean to you, Bettina?
Okay. So community matters, I think, is it's multifaceted, right? It's layered because community has its own definition to depending on who you're talking to. So you can have multiple communities. Like I have my family community, I have my neighborhood community, I have my church community where I worship. You have your work community. And I think what's important to me for people to know is that community is wherever you feel safe and also can be where you want to feel safe, but maybe you don't quite feel that way yet. And those things matter. The people who are in those spaces matter. You matter. And when you think about community, you think about togetherness, you think about unity, because unity is in community, right? Like people don't think about that. But when you go Latin, and I'm not going to go all deep on this tonight, but words have meanings, right? So if you think about the meaning of the word community, unity, right? People who are close to you, people, whether that's by an experience, whether it's a location, whatever community means to you, put that in for you and think about those people. And community is people, people matter. And that's really what it means to me. And when you think of it that way, then you're not going to just think about what's good for me, what's good for my four and no more, which is easy for us to do. But you think about your neighbor, your next door, your across the street, your friend, your coworker, people you don't even know are still a part of a community that you're in. And if you think about them before you think about yourself, then sometimes we'll make smarter decisions, better decisions.
I want to know about when you how you grew up and became what you are today. Like you have such strong feelings about family and about community, like you just talked about. Like, tell me about your upbringing. Like, how did we get to the Bettina that we are meeting today?
We got there very, very carefully. My parents, they're awesome. They're awesome people. Like I said, they moved here from Mississippi. They actually grew up in Mississippi in the 60s. In the 50s and 60s. So amidst all the crazy, I mean, I know right now it's crazy, but it was really crazy back then, the racial tension and just all the things. And my parents always taught my brothers and I that with God and an education, you could do anything. And so we had a firm foundation in who we were and who we belonged to. Even growing up here in Layton, not being of the predominant faith here, I know for a lot of people who are not, or who grew up not being a part of that, it was really, really tough. For me, I didn't really have any issues because I was able to defend what I believed just as well as they were. And we had, we didn't have issues. We would leave the playground or wherever it was, we'd have our discussion and we'd go out and we'd play and it was all good. I was never intimidated. I'll put it that way. I was never intimidated by not being a part or not belonging because I knew who I was when I left my house. I was already told. My mom was like, this is who you are. This is what you do. You have to be smarter. You have to be better. You have to do these things because some people may see you as less than, but you have to know who you are. And so we put in the work. Education was a big deal. I have a story about my brother. I'll be brief on it. But the basketball team and all the sports teams, they have a certain GPA you have to meet in order to play on the team. And my brother was doing fine with that GPA, but he wasn't meeting the GPA my mom wanted him to meet. So she took him off the team. He was ticked, but he learned a lesson and he got his grades up. And then she let him play again. And so it was things like that, that were important to us, instilled in us. We went to church a lot, like a lot more than many people. And so we always were doing something, but we knew what our priorities were. And because of that, I think it's helped us to, be strong, faith family, strong in what we do, strong in our work successes, and all of those things. Yeah, those are the things who have made me who I am. My parents, they were no joke. Like, they're great, loving, funny people. But my mom, she's super serious. And my dad is just kind of like, hey, he's the bouncer. And so I just appreciate them. I appreciate them for who they are and what they've taught my family and my brothers and I. And, that's how you see the Bettina you have. I've worked on my facial expressions and I practiced saying Layton over many years of my life. But for the most part, what you see is what you get. And I'm pretty fortunate to be able to speak my mind and be who I am and still leave a situation being friends with somebody. I can agree to disagree with the best of them. And I honestly feel great after we leave and we can still go out and have dinner, And I think that's something that is valued. That's something that I value. And I hope that more and more people will take on that type of ideology because, we're people and we don't have to be the same, but we can still work towards the same goals.
Right. So for anybody who's currently watching or watching this later, you've participated in a lot of town halls as you've run for Layton City Council. And so for those who are watching or who may watch later, if you haven't watched any of those videos, go watch them and learn about your candidates. And but there's been a lot of questions and a lot of discussion about what Layton City might be facing. And I'm curious because I think Layton City, each individual city versus community, are those things tend to mix and intermingle, right? So my question would be, like, you've answered the question about what's the biggest trial or biggest issue that we're facing as a city. What do you think as a community the biggest struggles or the biggest trial that we're facing?
So, I mean, I'll have a different take on that than probably most any other person that you can ask, or any other candidate. I'll put it that way. Right now, what I think we're facing is, this is going to sound some kind of way, but it's a bit of an identity crisis, and I'll say it in the sense that there are some truths that are being brought to light that are difficult for people to understand and difficult to accept at times. And that's not necessarily just for Layton and the Layton community, but with the political climate the way it is, and kind of the things that are going on in the nation, a lot of people, at least that I've spoken to on the doors, they are just not happy with the divisiveness that we see. And I think that there has been something awakened in people that they didn't realize was there. And because of that, they kind of fight it, and they say, oh, well, no, that's not me, or I'm not like this, I'm not like that. But sometimes we really just have to recognize what's in us, confront it, and then do the work to change it. Because the reason that we say it's not us or we don't like it is because it's not comfortable and it's not who we want to be. The good thing about that is if you see something in you that's not pretty, it's not what you want to be, you can change it. And it's okay. It's okay to admit that, which is one reason why I'm so grateful that mental health is being brought to light. For so long, people who had mental health issues, they kind of had to hide them or mask them, or quit a job instead of saying, hey, I need some help. But now it's more acceptable and more accepted to be able to admit, something's going on. I need to make some changes for me. And I think similarly with some of the things that we're seeing happening, it's okay to admit that maybe maybe you didn't think about an issue the right way. Maybe you did have some type of tendency that you think is an ugly tendency. That's okay. We're human. The point is you recognize it and then you acknowledge it and say, you know what can I do to move past this? Because I don't like it and I don't want to be that way. I have it myself.
I think what you're saying, I love what you're saying, but I would like to push a little harder and say, how are you going to make people or not make or have people understand how to make that change? Because you're talking about the divisiveness, you're talking about the things that we can learn, but how are we going to get people in our community to actually make the change instead of just talk about making the change?
Yeah. So I don't have the golden ticket, right? Like we can have Willy Wonka up in here singing all day. I don't have it. But what I have witnessed and have experienced myself is when I talk to people one-on-one and we have the conversation, we talk about it. I've had people who are almost in tears, because they are afraid that somebody thinks that they're racist. And they're like, I'm not racist. And to me, I'm like, I don't necessarily care if you are or not. But if you feel like somebody thinks you are because of something you did, let's talk about it. Let's talk about why you feel that way. Let's talk about why they feel that way. And I think I'm one of the few people who's currently in the public eye in our city who can have that conversation and not feel intimidated to talk about it. I live it. I've lived it. I'm born and raised here, and I've had enough experiences, my family members, my friends. I can talk about it and I'm not going to be offended. That's just the truth. There are people who move here from other places and they are outraged by some of the things that people say to them. And I have to tell them, I'm like, they don't know that they're being racist, because sometimes people don't know that. And it's really in a perception. And so I think if you talk to people, you have the opportunity to speak, to dialogue with somebody and be open, just have an open mind, because that's what I do. There are things that happen around me that I don't agree with. There are practices that people have that are not my preferred practice, but that doesn't mean that I have to have a negative discussion with you. It doesn't mean I have to be dismissive. It doesn't mean that I have to, I can't talk to this person. Why be like that? There are ways that you can find common ground. And that's why I always talk about that slogan that literally came to me, connecting people and building bridges, because you can find common ground with anybody if you're open enough to have the talk, to have the discussion. And you have to be willing to do that. And that's, like I said, I model it one person at a time. And when people talk to me one-on-one, we've had very few nasty comments, very few interactions that have gone sour. And it's because at the end of the day, we're all people. We all live here and we all want to see the best for our city. We want to see the best for our community, for our kids. And if that's the common goal, then let's figure out how to get there together.
Totally agree. I think that we as a community need to be much more open to communication, asking hard questions, being prepared for hard answers at times. I mean, that's the truth of this story, is we all have to learn and be better people. And if we do that, we're going to create a better community in the end. And I couldn't agree with you more. What do you see for your kids? Like, they're growing up, you have toddlers. What do you see for your kids in 10, 15 years here in Layton or in our community?
So I hope that in 10 years, down the road, 15 years, that they can be in a school or even any type of activity setting and not have to feel that maybe they can't be themselves. And my kids don't feel that right now, because if you guys know any toddlers are completely themselves all the time, which I absolutely love. But as we grow up and we learn what society brings us, that changes who we are sometimes. It changes how we respond, how we act. So I hope that they can feel just as confident and as comfortable as I feel in being able to be who they are. And I say that because I know that a lot of people do not. There are a lot of people who don't feel comfortable saying what they are thinking or, expressing themselves the way that they truly are. And I would like for Layton to be a city and a community where everybody feels that they can be who they are and not have to worry. I'll say one more thing and then I'll be done. I remember when I was at the 4th of July parade, I was walking and there was a lady on the side and she kind of mouthed to me like, and pointed at me, but she couldn't like yell and scream and say, "Yay, Bettina," and I thought, oh, that's so nice. And I ran over to her and I spoke with her. But there are a lot of people who don't like what they see, but they feel like they can't say anything. And I would like for people to be able to feel confident and open enough to say how they're feeling, what they don't like about what they're seeing, and come to some conclusions about how to change that without feeling like they're going to be ostracized or retaliated against or whatever they're feeling. I want people to feel like they can be who they are.
Love that.
I think that's always one of the struggles, right? I think back, just thinking about our conversations, and I grew up with multiple mantras that were told to me as a young kid, which things like "fake it till you make it," and in the theater world, the show must go on.
Right.
Which is interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to me that some of those things we're starting to realize. Well, maybe not. Instead of "fake it till you make it," why don't you pause and find out what you're missing?
Right.
And instead of just pushing through. So like you've, and Brandon kind of asked you this, but what are some of the things that you find yourself, because I've known you for a long time, and I know that it's kind of, it's a bit trippy for me, because like I hear you and I think to myself, yep, no, that's been Bettina for a while. So what are some of the things that you ground yourself in, to help you be in that position where you can just be yourself?
Yeah. So, I've kind of mentioned it earlier, and I know for some people it's not their thing, but for me, faith has been huge. And so, whoever you can find to help ground you, that's what you need to do. For me, it's God and my family, and just that constant knowing that there's a bigger life than me. Like there's something greater than me. And at the end of the day, whatever is supposed to happen is going to happen. But I want to make sure that I'm aligned in a right space to be able to be as effective as possible. And, it's not even something I think about on a daily basis. But if you wake up knowing that I want to make, today the best day I can make it, I want to be as productive as possible. How can I do that? And I'll tell you, when I became a mom, like my whole life shifted completely upside down, because like Dan says, he's known me for a while. I'm pretty, together. At least I thought I was pretty together. There are things that I want to do and I'll do them. And, I have things lined up and I'm like, this is what I'm going to do. And this is my next step. Kids change all of that. And so I had to rely on my faith, because something as simple as having my house clean, and you clean up, and right after you clean up, a toddler runs through like, Looney Tunes, and there it goes. And you're just like, what is the problem? So I had to learn how to let things go and not be so hung up on what I want things to be, and realize, I think my mom said something, I don't know if I can remember it right, but it's like, your house is clean enough to be healthy and dirty enough to be fun, or something like that. I'm not saying it right, but I had to be okay with that. I had to be okay with things not being exactly how I wanted them to be. And I had to go through a lot of disappointment. I had to go through a lot of, not your way, things not going my way, to get to a place where I was okay. And just like, hey, this is what it is. And it's not going to be this way all the time, but that helps me to kind of roll with the punches, so to speak, And I think if you can find whatever your thing is, then cling to it and don't let anybody make you feel badly about it. And that's something I learned in high school. In high school, I got caught up. Well, I don't think I got caught up, but I witnessed the people get caught up in, I don't like this person, so you can't like this person either, and all of that stuff. And literally in like 10th grade, I was like, that's crazy. You may not be friends with this person. They did something to you, but they're still friends with me. So I had multiple friend groups. I had friends who would tell people, they're like, well, you can't be friends with this person because they did this to me. And I'm like, well, they didn't do anything to me. So we're just going to I won't mix the groups together, but I'm not going to stop being somebody's friend because they did something to you. And I think if we did more of that confrontation, I've not ever been afraid of confrontation, good or bad, I don't know. But if we could do more of that, then we could help mend things a lot easier. And people wouldn't really have, so much to try and keep up. They wouldn't have so much face to try and save. And really, I've learned it only takes one person. So if you have one person who's willing to say, I don't think so, then that gives other people the permission to say, you know what, me either, but I just wasn't going to say anything, So, I mean, I don't know if I answered your question, Dan, but that's just kind of how I've learned. If you have one person who's willing to take a stand, then there are usually a number of others who want to stand up too.
Bettina, you are amazing. I could listen to you talk all night, but here we are. Like we have to end at some point, right? Because I really, you are our very first person ever on our Community Matters chat, and we're very grateful for you. But I think the takeaway that I will be taking away is my new mantra that I will live by for the rest of my life. It's from your mom. Clean enough to be healthy, dirty enough to be fun. So
that's right.
That's my takeaway.
That's it.
From this conversation.
If I find the right one, I'll be sure to message it to you.
I may have to put it on a plaque and actually hang it up. So,
right.
But no, really, thank you so much for sharing your time. It really is amazing to chat with you and to get to learn more about you and your vision for Layton and all the things. So I really appreciate your time.
Thank you guys for this opportunity.
Yes.
It's been fun.
All right. Well, we will talk to you soon, and best of luck in the next few weeks.
Yep. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, I love her.
So, I have a funny story, and I probably should have mentioned this with Bettina on the line so she could respond to it. But we went to high school together, and we had a class together. It was a history class with a terrible, terrible teacher. And
I hope they're not listening.
And I won't say names, but if I did, a bunch of people would be like, "Oh, yeah." But she helped me get a good grade in that class because she got mad at the teacher. But anyway, that's
I
another.
love that.
But Bettina was always great. I remember her in high school, and she's exactly what she said.
And no one else knows this, but I can still see her on my screen because she's down in the cameras that I can choose from, and she is loving this story. She is totally there for it.
It's something that I tell every time people start talking about bad teachers that they had in high school. I'm like, I got a winner. But anyway, but it was she is exactly like I remember her from high school, and she was a student body officer, and she literally was friends with everybody. Like she said, she didn't have a group of friends. She was, I was one of those nerdy choir kids, and she was friends with all the choir kids, which we were kind of a tight knit group that didn't let everybody in, but she was in because she was just nice with everybody. So that was a great conversation. I love Bettina. She's great.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed about her when I met her was how open she was and willing to chat about anything. Like I never once was like concerned that I was going to say something that would catch her off guard. But she's delightful. But you missed this at the very beginning, Dan, and I'm just going to repeat it because it needs to be said one more time. As OPA is a nonprofit, we are not able to endorse any candidates for an elected official office, and we reached out to all city council candidates here in Layton to join at one point or another, join this conversation, and Bettina is one of them that responded, and we welcome any of the other remaining ones to join the conversation as well. So this is not an endorsement of Bettina. It is an endorsement that she's a person and we love chatting with her. So
well, and obviously as she is running for Layton City Council, she's interested in the community, and
yeah,
it fits the community matters
yep
target that we're looking at. So anybody who's involved, that's sitting council members, members of anybody who's interested in our community, we're more than happy to have that conversation.
Yes, and along those lines, before we say goodbye, next week we have Mandy who's joining us. Mandy is going to be talking about sustainability, recycling, how we can use that in our communities, how that sustainability in theater exists. It's a lot of great conversation to come with Mandy, and we're super excited about it. It's next Thursday at 5:00, and Dan promises he'll be on time next week.
I will. My apologies. It's been a busy day for me.
I don't have any idea why.
I sent my wife away. So
yeah,
we were adjusting to that life. So
it's fine.
She just
all
went to
right.
Without
well,
me.
This is it. We did our first episode, and
all right.
It'll be up, and it's amazing. And as I like to say at the end of every show we do, go see theater. It matters. Theater matters. So support live theater wherever you can, whether it's at OPA or any of the amazing community theaters around us. Go see theater. Go support the arts, and join in our Community Matters chatter by hashtag Community Matters. There it is. All right, Dan. I'll see you next week. Everybody else, bye.
Bye, everybody.